Nominee Donald Trump. Mr. Donald Trump, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Maria.
Good to talk with you. A lot happened over the weekend, obviously, and everybody's talking about your comments about minimum wage and about taxes. But I want to start, Donald, on this upcoming meeting that you're going to have with the House leadership on Thursday. What are you expecting to come out of that meeting?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, I won by more votes than anybody has ever received in Republican primaries, and we haven't even finished out the states. We have plenty left, including New Jersey, California, state of Washington, where I just got back, and, you know, many others, West Virginia this weekend, and Nebraska, great places. So, I mean, you know, I don't know exactly what is happening here. I was called a number of weeks ago by Paul Ryan. It was a very nice call, a very complimentary call, and that was the last I spoke to him, and all of a sudden he wants to talk. And I think this is a time for unity. And if there's not going to be unity, I think that's okay, too. I mean, I'll go out, and I think I'll do very well. I think I'm going to win the race either way, if you want to know the truth, because Hillary Clinton is a disaster for this country. She's a total disaster. So I think I'm going to win either way. But we're going to meet, as I understand it, on Thursday. I look forward to the meeting. I hope it's going to be positive, and if it's not going to be positive, I can live with that also. I mean, I have many people that, like Jeb Bush and others, that signed agreements. You know, they signed a pledge, and they don't honor their pledge, which is really pretty terrible when you think of it. But they signed a pledge, Maria, him and this senator from South Carolina who was registered at 0 when I beat him in the election. You know, in the primary. So Lindsey Graham, he's like a disaster. He goes around on every show. I mean, they don't say that he ran for president and he lost and he embarrassed himself.
Right.
So what happens is you know, we have people, mostly support, by the way. We got tremendous support. Many people came at the highest level and they supported far more. But of course, you know, the media doesn't want to talk about the ones that support. They only want to talk about the ones that don't support. I mean, we've had so many great congressmen. I won't even mention names because there's so many of them. But
well, you've also got Senator Jeff Sessions. He's been a fantastic supporter. We just saw
Darrell Issach just came out.
Exactly.
You know,
and we just spoke to Scott Brown too. He's a big supporter of
yours.
You have
Scott Brown. You have Dick Cheney. Just came out. No, I have tremendous support.
Yeah,
but
no, I know that. Absolutely.
Hey, Maria, nobody ever mentions that. They'll mention, like, 2 people that are against. So, you know, it's one of those.
Look, bottom line is you're winning. Congratulations, Donald Trump. You had a phenomenal last couple of weeks, and I hadn't spoken to you since, since today. So congratulations on an amazing showing in Indiana. But let me ask you this, because over the weekend you did mention about minimum wage and tax increases. And look, we all know that this meeting on Thursday is not about Paul Ryan. This is not a personal thing. This is about the principles of the Republican Party. This weekend on my Sunday program, I had Congressman Sean Duffy on, who said, yeah, this is about the principles, and you do have some things to prove. Listen to this, Donald. I want to get your reaction.
Okay.
Are those 2 things a departure from the principles you've discussed on the campaign trail, Donald?
No. So first of all, Sean Duffy is a fantastic guy. Okay, number one. But most importantly, I'm not talking about a tax increase. I'm talking about a tremendous tax decrease, okay? And it was misreported by NBC, but it was totally misreported. And Chuck Todd knows it was misreported because I corrected him on the show itself. So, are you ready? I put in a proposal, because that's all it is. It's really not tax policy. It's a proposal.
Of course.
I put it because, you know, it's got to be negotiated by Congress. It's got to go through the Senate. Everybody looks at it, and everybody negotiates. I put in a massive tax decrease. In fact, Larry Kudlow said it's the best plan of any plan. Larry Kudlow is a great guy, and Larry Kudlow, as you know, gave it very high praise.
It's a 15% business rate.
Well, I lowered the tax. I lowered the business. We're the highest tax nation in the world, and I have it that we're among the lower tax nations. Not the lowest, but how low can you go, right?
Right.
But it was the biggest cut of any candidate running for office, right? So during the course of my conversation with Chuck Todd, which of course is always inaccurately portrayed, I said, of the low proposal, yeah, I may have to raise it a little bit because this is a negotiation. I may have to raise it.
On the wealthy, on the highest earners.
On the highest, because I said, I'm really going to fight hard because, look, the middle class has just been decimated in this country. So I said, I'm really going to fight hard for the middle class. I'm not raising it, and I'm not raising it in a business, but I could see the wealthy getting raised. But I'm not talking raised from where they are now. I'm talking about raised from my low proposal. So you have to explain to Sean, because I don't want Sean to think, that I'm lowering taxes, but with this very low tax that I put in, the biggest of anybody, I may have to raise it a little bit from that point. So the media, of course, picks it up that Trump wants a tax increase. It's just unbelievable. There's another thing, as long as I'm on your show, because a lot of my friends are watching your show nowadays. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you so much, Donald.
But Marie, as long as I'm on your show, there was another thing that was said. Bonds. Now, nobody knows more about debt. I'm like the king. I love debt.
You call yourself the king of debt, and people are like, that's not a good thing, Donald Trump.
No, it's a good thing, because I know how to handle debt better than anybody. I've made a lot of money with debt, okay? But during the course of the conversation, I said, no, I'd love to buy back the debt at a discount. I'd like to buy back bonds at a discount. And, you can do that. If interest rates go up, we'll have a chance to buy back debt. That's what I'm talking about. So now a lot of the papers said Donald Trump wants to go and start negotiating with creditors. First of all, you don't have to think about this, but we print the money, so you're never going to have that kind of a. But with the United States government, if we can buy back bonds at a discount, that's a wonderful thing. I love to buy back at a discount, but if interest rates go up, you'll be given that opportunity because bonds will go down, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I was talking about. So now they have it that Donald Trump wants to go out and he wants to renegotiate bonds and he wants to default on bonds and he wants to buy them back at a discount. Well, that's great for private business, but it's certainly not good for the United States government. And I never said that. All I said is that if interest rates go up, we'll have a chance to buy back bonds at a discount, which is standard.
Okay.
But certainly I'm not talking about renegotiating with creditors.
All right, but you could look at the debt and rework the debt, but don't you have to slow entitlement growth? I mean, isn't that where much of the spending is? I haven't heard you talk.
You have to do waste, fraud, and abuse, and there's tremendous.
So are you going to change the entitlements? I'm talking Social Security.
Right.
Medicare.
No, but you have to do the waste, fraud, and abuse. There's tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse, but I'm leaving it the way it is. I'm going to bring jobs back to the country. We're going to make our country rich again. Our country's not rich. Look, GDP, you reported on it. I watched you recently. I guess it's practically zero.
Up 0.5%. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Practically it's zero. And probably if they report that number, the number's worse because when they put it out, they're trying to put a good spin. So in my opinion, that means we're below zero. If that ever happened to China, it would be a massive. If they go to 7% or 8%, you read like, they're going down the tubes almost. We're at zero. And I think getting worse, if you want to know the truth.
But, I mean, in terms of, so you're not going to touch the entitlements right now. Are you going to just bring jobs back, and that moves the needle on growth?
We're going to do a lot in terms of waste, fraud, and abuse. I mean, there's tremendous money there. But we're going to bring jobs back. We're going to get the economy going, and we'll be able to afford it, Maria.
What about the minimum wage, Donald? You said you can't imagine how anybody could live on $7.25.
On the minimum wage, I would like to leave it to the states because, frankly, every state is different. Every state has different cost of living and everything else, and I would like to leave it to the states. But I will tell you, $7.25 is pretty tough. And as far as I'm concerned, I could see something happening there. But I would leave it to the states because you know what? The states have to compete with each other. They have to compete with outside, interest, and I would leave minimum, and it's happening anyway because states like in New York, they raised it. But I would leave the minimum wage to the states.
So do you see that as sort of the template? Should most states go to 15? I mean, you've got it in New York. You've also got it in California.
No, but states are different. I mean, in New York, it's very expensive to live. In other states, it's not expensive at all. I mean, by comparison to New York.
That makes sense.
New York would probably be the most expensive in terms of living. So I would, to any critic that says I want to raise it, not that I want to raise it, and I'd like to. I think something should happen. $7.25 is not good. What I would do is this. I would leave it to the states because every region is different. Every state is different. I mean, you go from New York to other places, and it costs you so much less to live.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You make a great point. Okay. Everybody has a different mentality, different cost of living. That's absolutely right.
Much different.
Donald, what about you, vice presidential pick?
I have people that work for me in different locations throughout the country, and I pay them for the same job, much less, and they have a better lifestyle than they have in New York.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Real quick, Donald, before you go, your vice presidential pick, I know you're going to announce it at the convention. Characteristics that you're looking for, you said military mojo or foreign policy mojo, and you said Washington experience.
I do like military mojo because our military is being decimated,
right.
and we're not doing well, and we're listening to guys like Lindsey Graham that don't know what they're doing, frankly, and we'll be fighting ISIS forever. You listen to these guys. No, I like the concept of military, but I think probably political because we're going to have a lot of legislation that I want to pass without necessarily signing executive orders like Obama does every day.
Right.
We're going to have a lot of legislation, so I like the idea of somebody that can help politically. I have a number of people that I really, really like, but I won't be discussing it until right now. I mean, look, we came out a little bit earlier, Maria, than we thought. We thought we'd be going to June 7th or June 8th or maybe even up to the convention. I never did. I knew we had all the delegates we needed. I was sure of it.
Right.
But, and then all of a sudden we won Indiana massively. And because of that was a massive win. And so was New York and so many other states, Pennsylvania. But we won it massively and everybody dropped out. So I didn't think I'd be sitting here watching Hillary, who cannot close the deal. See, Trump gets the deal closed, from the business standpoint. We get the deal closed. Hillary has not been able to close the deal. But it was supposed to be the other way around. She was supposed to be watching us fight it out for the next 2 months. And
right.
So I get a little bit of a pleasant surprise. But we have some great vice presidential people that I think they'll be fantastic.
Well, we'll see. And you're right. They may have a contested convention. Donald, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Gloves are off as Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump look past the conventions and towards November. What do the latest attacks mean, and will they make a difference as both sides get ready for a long fight?
And Mother Nature's fury. Tornadoes touch down out west and massive wildfires up north, producing so much smoke it's affecting the jet stream all the way down the East Coast.
Happy Mother's Day on this Sunday to you and yours at home. Nice to be with you. I'm Leland Vittert.
And I'm Elizabeth Brand, and for Shannon Bream, welcome to America's election headquarters from Washington. The GOP is drawing lines between establishment Republicans refusing to endorse Donald Trump, the party's presumptive presidential nominee, and those who have gotten behind him. Now Trump and his camp are weighing in on statements made by Republican leaders such as Paul Ryan and Lindsey Graham. Rich Edson is here with more on Trump Unleashed. Hi, Rich.
Hey, Elizabeth and Leland. Donald Trump's campaign is telling skeptical Republicans it is up to them to support him. Several senior Republicans say Trump needs to change his tone and rhetoric and adopt conservative positions on taxes, trade, and foreign policy. Trump's campaign says those Republicans have it backwards. Officials say the GOP needs to embrace him.
He's the head of the Republican Party. He wants the party to get behind him and support him. There's never been a nominee for President of the United States who had every Republican supporting him and everybody accepting every single position of the presidential candidate.
House Speaker Paul Ryan has invited Trump to meet Thursday with congressional leaders. Ryan says he is not yet ready to endorse Trump. Trump says he was blindsided by that announcement. The presumptive Republican nominee is criticizing his former Republican primary challengers, Jeb Bush and Lindsey Graham, for failing to endorse him, even though all GOP candidates signed a pledge last fall promising to back the eventual nominee. Trump is also turning more of his focus to his likely general election opponent, Hillary Clinton. Last night at a rally in Washington State, Trump called Clinton trigger-happy for her vote to support the Iraq War while she was a senator. Clinton has also attacked Trump for mistreating women. Trump shot back, claiming her husband, former President Bill Clinton, and his history of affairs is far worse than he is. Elizabeth and Leland, back to you.
I assume that's not going to be the last we hear of those attacks.
Don't think so.
Rich, thank you so much.
All right. In addition to some top Republican politicians saying no to Trump, some big-time activists are doing the very same thing, going as far as to talk about a third-party candidate. One of the loudest voices in that camp, talk radio host Eric Erickson, who joins us now from Macon, Georgia. Eric, nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so you were part of the Never Trump movement. Sufficing to say, you guys lost, he won. Where do we go from here?
Well, there are a lot of us. It's not just establishment Republicans, but also conservative activists who have fought the Republican establishment who are opposed to Trump. And the fight on that side is whether or not you do form a third party or you just sit it out and let Trump lose on his own. I mean, the calculus that everyone needs to understand is that a lot of conservatives have concluded whether there's a third party or not, Trump's not going to beat Hillary. So do you give conservatives a place to go to a new home, since Trump is now saying, for example, this weekend that the Republican Party isn't a conservative party, it's the Republican Party.
To that point, in terms of where do conservatives go, you wrote something about that back in 2015, August 19th to be exact, when you were the editor of RedState.com. I am the editor of RedState.com. You write, "We have long maintained that we are conservative in the primary and Republican in the general election. If Donald Trump is the Republican nominee, he has my vote." Is that statement still true or no longer?
No, it's not true for a number of reasons, including the fact that Donald Trump is now abandoning the free market for protectionism, abandoning blocking the minimum wage for increasing it, abandoning low taxes for high taxes, and waffling on life. If he's going to change the Republican Party from what it was last year, then I guess I'm not a Republican.
If you say you're not a Republican, though, fair to say, in terms of whatever electoral map you look at, if there is a third-party candidate, it splits the electorate, and Hillary Clinton is guaranteed to be the president. Which is better, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump?
Well, you know, if you put a gun to my head and said, who do I pick, Hillary or Donald, I would pick the bullet. They're just as bad. And I don't think that the choice for conservatives should be to decide between two evils. Given the choice of two evils, choose neither.
All right, so where does this go from here? Obviously, we have the presidential race. You say you'd rather have the bullet when it comes to that. Looking down the ticket, though, how does this affect things, especially in places like Georgia that some polls say possibly could now be up for play?
Well, and that's why the third party idea is taking so much merit from conservatives, is to give people a reason to show up in November so Republicans don't get crushed down ballot. Right now, there's no polls showing that Donald Trump makes a blue state red, but you've now got Mississippi, Utah, Arizona, and Georgia, all Republican states, solidly Republican, that now are moving blue because of the Trump-Clinton situation. So you're going to have to get Republicans out in November, and if they're not going to show up for Trump, they need someone at the top of the ticket to get them out to vote to save down ballot races.
Is that the issue, though? Do you need somebody at the top of the ticket to get Republicans out, true conservatives, as you would call them, or will they come out specifically for those down ballot races?
I think it becomes very hard to incentivize people to go vote if the choices are Clinton and Trump, because that's going to dominate the conversation. Senate, congressional, state legislative races aren't going to dominate the race. And so when the coverage is all Clinton versus Trump, a lot of people will be demoralized and stay home. Give them a third party to go vote as a protest against Clinton and Trump even, and they may show up still and vote Republican down ballot.
I got 15 seconds. Give me 3 names you'd find acceptable.
Ben Sass is probably the most commonly talked about name. Tom Coburn is a name that's being talked about as well. They're still looking for other names, and honestly, that's the problem with third party right now, is who do you run? Nobody seems to agree.
Well, nobody seems to agree, but we appreciate your thoughts on this Mother's Day. All the best, Eric.
Thanks very much.
Good having you.